welcome to Sports Counsel, your playbook for all things sports. I am your host Matt, and I'm here with Vivek and Bryant for this episode of the show. After 2 months of the playoffs and 7 months of the regular season, the 2025 NBA Finals is finally set. The Indiana Pacers will play against the Oklahoma City Thunder for this year's NBA championship. We break down everything you need to know about this series, including key matchups, players to watch for, and our predictions on who wins it all. Today is June 2nd, 2025, and this is episode 177 of the show.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm ready to join the Taliban.
What a lovely start.
We're starting off. That's what hot was this one here.
To the late night podcast.
It's the truth, man. It's after hours on the pod. We're getting the truth out here for the loyal listeners.
I didn't realize Gab joined the pod already.
What's that truth? What's that truth? What is this truth that you see is saying? Maybe it's best not to answer that, actually.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, it is a late Monday night. We're recording this at around 9:50 p.m. Pacific time. So maybe our kind of I don't know, what is it? Control is a little bit looser.
It's been a long work day, We're just shooting the shit, as they say.
Exactly.
Anything goes.
I mean, this is our NBA Finals preview episode. Off to a glorious start already, but we are here to cover everything that you need to know before Game 1 of the NBA Finals. But before we get started, once again, we are Sports Counsel. This is our podcast. You can find our Twitter, our Instagram, our threads. It is sports_counsel on all of our platforms. Go ahead, be sure to go over there, drop a follow. And if you want to join our Discord to discuss live the NBA Finals, because we will be talking a lot in that chat like we have, the Discord link is in the bio to all of those as well. Once again, that is sports_counsel on all of our platforms. Instagram, Twitter, Threads. We have a TikTok. Be sure to watch for that and, discuss with us on our Discord. So, NBA Finals. Let's get to it, fellas. So, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference. We have the Indiana Pacers on the Eastern Conference. The Thunder are the best record in the NBA by far, 68-14. They've only lost 4 games throughout the entire playoffs, and they have the reigning MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have swept the Grizzlies. They won a very narrow fight in 7 against the Denver Nuggets, and they won in 5 versus the Minnesota Timberwolves to make it to the, NBA Finals as a Western Conference champion. And on the other side, we have the Indiana Pacers, who went 50-32 and the 4th seed in the East. They've also lost only 4 games throughout the entire playoffs, and they won 3 of their playoff games in last-minute comebacks in each of these series. And they won in 5 against the Bucks and Cavs, and in 6 against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals this past Saturday night. And so we have our NBA Finals matchup right here. So, very long introduction aside, I mean, first of all, anyone remotely see this coming? Like in Vegas or whatever, I think you should already cash out at this point. But
I literally just like 15 minutes ago, I saw something on NBA Reddit. You can call your best source for NBA information. It was something like Obama making a call that, hey, the Pacers are a young team. They're going to go far, like at the beginning of the season. So maybe the ex-president knew what was going on. Maybe he had some money in Vegas there. But I mean, yeah, certainly, right? 2 small market teams, commissioner's nightmare. Kind of shows that the NBA might not be rigged.
I don't know if we're going that far. Did we
Super
spread
Vivek, to the Mavs?
Yeah, did we spread like some conspiracies last time?
We may have indulged a bit in the whole tinfoil hat as conspiracy theory wheelhouse, but I'll leave that for the listeners to kind of peep what I really think what's actually happening in the league. But as far as parity, the truth is out there. You don't got to look that far to see what's actually happening, Mr. Silver.
Okay.
But that aside, I think that the Pacers having a great postseason, coming off the backs of a great postseason last year, I mean, them losing to the Celtics was probably the closest sweep in NBA history. I mean, they gave the Celtics a run for their money. I really am impressed with what they've been able to do. So I think that the Thunder were pretty strong favorites coming into the season. I'm not very surprised by the success that they've had. But the Pacers, they've built a solidly sneaky good team, as one would say, and the fact that they've come this far, pulling off the upsets versus the Cavs being one, it's huge. So props to them.
Yeah, I think this is a finals where, right, it's two young teams, relatively young teams, all going at it. But I think there's definitely a lot at stake for both the franchises, right? Thunders, Pacers in Oklahoma City and Indiana, neither city has won an NBA championship. And well, I mean, yeah, their entire existence there. So that's on the line. We're gonna get a first champion for the first time in a while. And also just like especially I think if you're the Pacers, right, having every member of your team kind of really show up in this playoff run, you're not going to get this opportunity with how well they're shooting, how well they're playing, how much hustle they got on defense. It's going to be hard to get that kind of year in year out there. So when you have right Tyrese really coming in himself here, you got Siakam showing why he's a former champion, winning that Finals MVP, stealing that away from Halliburton. You got guys like Neesmith, Toppin, Nemhard are shooting lights out, and they proved that against the Knicks, right? And they're going to need to do that, if not even more, to stand a chance against these Thunder there. But yeah, like, can we expect the same level from this team of the Thunder, or not the Thunders, the Pacers? Are they going to be like this next year? Could be kind of hard to see just based off of how well they're playing here. So I feel like, in my opinion, a bit of the pressure is going to be on the Pacers there. They're in more of that kind of like, this is their shot to kind of win now because they are just playing unreal levels of basketball.
I agree, but at the same time, just to play devil's advocate, the Thunder have that pressure too because there's something called the second apron, and paying Shea's already getting paid, but you got J-Dub and you got Chet that are going to be due for max to super max extensions over the next few years. And realistically, how will the cap space even be there to fit all three of those guys? I mean, sure, Sam Presti can knock it out of the park and draft some crazy prospect over the next few years, and chances are he'll probably hit on it just based on how great of a GM he is. But still, there's still a limited timeline for this core too, if you just want to go by the cap space.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I want to point out, because you said that the closest sweep in terms of the Celtics, the Pacers, like, yeah, the Pacers lost to the eventual champions in the Celtics, and then the Thunder also lost to the eventual Western Conference champs in the Mavericks. So, yeah, I mean, those two met in the finals last year, and now both of them weren't able to kind of make it, and that's what led to these two teams being able to get there, right? So this could have been the matchup last year if they didn't run into the, the eventual conference champions in the Mavericks and Celtics. So I feel like this was it's looked remote at first, but I think this was a very real possibility, the Thunder and the Pacers. I think we just never kind of see either of these teams again in the finals because they've only both been in the finals once, right? Mm-hmm. And they're both also, I think for the first time ever in luxury tax history, both of them are under the luxury tax threshold. So they aren't paying luxury tax right now, and that's what has allowed them to both be, like you said, Bryant, they're both very, very deep teams, right? Like the Thunder, they've just got incredible playmakers. It's mostly, the focus is on Shea. He's the MVP, but I mean, I'd be discounting all of the kind of young talent that they have in Jalen Williams and Holmgren and Dort, and you got Caruso and oh my gosh, what's that other guy's name off the bench?
You got Hartenstein. You got Isaiah Joe. You got Casey
Wallace. They're so deep. And then, you got the Pacers. They're super deep too. I feel like when it comes to, let's start breaking down the teams here. It's just, the Pacers are so good. And like we just talked about it, Vivek, that in the Warriors podcast that we did last time, in that the Warriors, it seems like nobody can shoot other than Hield and Steph Curry, right? But I feel like the Pacers, man, every one of them can shoot. Every single one of them, the starting five can all shoot on their own. They can all shoot the three. They're all not afraid to create their own shot. And then they also got shooters off the bench, too. I mean, TJ McConnell's not a three-point shooter, but he's a mid-range kind of guy, just like Sean Livingston used to be. Not exactly the same kind of, elite level like that, but he has his ability on the offense. He has Obi Toppin as well. Like, I feel like it's incredibly deep. And then Rick Carlisle, he just gives some of these guys the confidence also. Like, oh my God, there was this guy, Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant played
Yeah,
extended minutes. There's another one,
Hmm.
it's like
Trace
Thomas
Walker.
Bryant, Tony Bradley. I think
Yeah, yeah,
someone
yeah.
in the game 6. I think it was the Bradley guy. He was like shooting like threes, just as
Yeah.
he was hitting every three. It was
There's a guy
crazy
who's
how much
wearing number
stats.
5. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Because I missed a game, unfortunately. And then like I watched game 6 and I was just like, who's 5? Who's number 5
I
shooting
don't
now? I've
know.
never heard of him.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but you didn't even mention guys like Benedict Mathurin, Ben Shepherd, too.
Oh,
All had to
yep.
play extended
That's it.
minutes. I mean, Benedict Mathurin had a couple good games. Ben Shepherd had this that been when like Neesmith was getting like beat up out there too. So I mean, yeah, that entire team, they got like almost 12 dudes, if not more, that can all just hit those clutch shots.
Yeah, and then you got on the OKC side, I mean, you got, again, like the starting 5, like we said. You got Alex Caruso, Isaiah Joe. What's that guy's? There's a guy, 34, I want to say. Oh my God. I'm blanking on some of these names here. But I mean, I think they got two of really, really good perimeter defenders right now in Caruso and Dort, and then those guys can kind of lock up on the top of the key, and then they got two bigs inside. I think that was one of their biggest weaknesses last year is that they didn't really have a big to kind of go up against the lob threats and like Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford on the Mavericks. So then they went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein. Holmgren got a little bit better as a defender, right? So these are two incredibly deep teams. They were able to build everything before the luxury tax kind of hit them. Let's start off with the first question of the day, gentlemen. Which bench would you rather have, I guess, in this one? Which one do you think would show out more?
That's a
That's a great question.
yeah.
Because it really depends on what you're going for. I think that the Thunder emphasize switchability,
Mm-hmm.
but the Pacers actually might have more shot creation and spacing with their bench. So it really depends on your flavor of offense versus defense. And this is kind of the recurring theme that will be seen throughout these finals. It's sort of a meta point, but it's hard. I would have to go with the bench that probably has played more cohesively and more minutes. And just Mark Dagnall throwing out a bunch of different starting lineups and combinations all throughout the regular season. It's not just a Thibodeau situation where you're running your starters in the ground. I think that this is a team that legit has gone 12 deep throughout the regular season, and they've all played active stretches. So, in terms of just getting their legs underneath them and being able to be on the same page, um, I'd have to go with the Thunder. And I think that Anthony Edwards, he had this one post game quote that I thought was very, I guess, telling of
Mm-hmm.
how the philosophy is of the Thunder. And I believe, and this is me paraphrasing it incorrectly, I'm sure, but they say something along the lines of it's like there's a puppet that's controlling 12 people all at once. Like the way that they're so in sync and are able to play off each other, and the fact that there's not even really a huge let up when their stars are off the floor is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd have to. I think I would agree with you too for the Thunder, but for me, it was like kind of passing the eye test. I honestly watched a lot more of the Pacers games than the Thunder's because like the Thunders just beat the hell out of Minnesota
Yeah.
there. But every time I watched the Pacers play, I mean, yeah, their bench was incredible, but my mind just keeps on going back to that game 3 where it was thought it was going to be GG. Thunders were up, not Thunder, Pacers was up like 20 plus points, and then slowly that lead just gave away, and it was the bench making costly turnovers and just bad fouls here and there, and just let Knicks back into the game, and they ultimately won out that game. And they clearly just cannot do that against the Thunder, right? Thunders, I think, are the ones that force the most turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pacers are the ones that will protect the ball typically the best. But if their bench has a game like that against the Thunders, I mean, it's just completely game over at that point. Thunders are clearly a team that will take advantage of every single mistake that you made. And I think they've proved it throughout the playoffs is how they've dismantled every team. So the Pacers will have to play perfect there, and their bench really needs to kind of shore that up and not be careless with the ball.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest matchup, right? I think the key matchup is going to be OKC's defense versus the Pacers' offense, right? Like, these guys all have calling cards, right? what makes a team great? What makes this particular team great? And for OKC, if in case you haven't watched the playoffs yet and you're kind of just getting into the NBA Finals and you've come to listen to this podcast, this is what we'll tell you. OKC's biggest and best asset is their defense right now. They are a good offensive team, and they have a guy who, again, is the MVP, and he's scoring like 30 points per game. But it's mostly that defense. They are, turning the ball over. They're creating the most turnovers in the NBA, like Bryant said. And they are, that kind of fuels their offense, because once you get out on the break and you kind of get in, if you force a turnover, usually there won't be guys in front of you, and you'll be able to kind of score the basket with these, and you kind of just go on fast breaks. And then that biggest thing that I've noticed, because I haven't watched a lot of OKC games either, but when I've watched them in the playoffs, is that when it rains, it pours. Like every time they turn the ball over, they force a turnover. The next possession, they get another turnover, and then they get another turnover. Like it's like they get rattled all of a sudden, and then they don't know how to perform. Like that's what happened in that Game 7 against Denver. Like Denver just couldn't keep up at a certain point, and like eventually it just kind of got to a big, like they started to go from like up 7 to up 20 all of a sudden in a blink of an eye, and then you kind of get intimidated by that, right? But then in Indiana, the biggest calling card is their offense, right? They are so in sync when it comes to their offense, and they've had these scoring runs where it's just like, it feels like in 2K when you kind of hot, right, and you shoot the ball and you're on fire, right? It feels like when they do it, everybody's on fire. Like once one guy starts hitting their shot and then the next guy hits their shot, everybody gets kind of that hot, on fire thing, and then they just all keep draining it. Like I saw Miles Turner drain like a 30-foot shot in like that Cleveland game before halftime, and they just blew them out of the water, right? Like I feel like they could be one of the hottest teams when they get a rhythm going. OKC's hottest team when they get their defense going. It's just going to be a matter of who is able to kind of do that first, right? I think that's the biggest matchup that we'll have to kind of see moving forward.
Yeah. How about kind of to look at kind of the star power, right? Your SGA versus Tyrese, right? Clearly the most famous members of your team, almost. I'm trying to think like how important are those star players going to be, or right? We talked about how strong the overall teams and philosophies are, like their benches. Is that going to be the story, strength in numbers to both sides, or is kind of the star powers of like SGA and Tyrese? You might as well throw Siakam in the mix too, right? Or honestly, it's really Tyrese and SGA. Let's be honest here. I don't know how's that story going to play out, right? The star players and the bench ultimately.
My only issue is that Halliburton sometimes disappears, and I'm not trying to be mean, because first of all, I'm gonna say for a fact, because I hate when people don't act like they're biased, but I am gonna root for the Pacers in this, and I have been rooting for the Pacers throughout the entire playoffs. So I am, favoring the Pacers in this series, and I'll be rooting for them. Halliburton sometimes disappears though. Like I think in that Game 5 against the Knicks, he had a terrible performance, and like sometimes he just has like 8 points, 7 assists, but he's not able to kind of be really efficient. And that's kind of what happened that's kind of why Pascal Siakam eventually got that Eastern Conference Finals MVP, because he's been very consistent and he's been able to create shots. Like they said that they don't run plays to Siakam, he just does it, right? He's like a spinning blade out there, right?
Yeah.
Like, he just makes his own shot. Like I think that Siakam actually is going to be a bigger factor in this series than we think. Halliburton, I think, is the engine that makes this offense go, but I don't think he necessarily does the same thing that Shea does, which is Shea, everyone needs him to score. Every time. He has to score 20 points per game, at least. 25, at least, to win, right? Halliburton, he doesn't have to score 25 to win. Like, he just needs to get 10 assists. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, like, yeah, honestly, it's not even Tyrese. It's the return of Pascal Siakam as your champion superstar. Maybe he's the real guy you should compare to SGA. But I definitely agree. Is like, I mean, I feel like I would say the Pacers, I want them to win as well, given how much I've watched them. I feel like if the Pacers win, it's going to be like a team effort there. It's not going to be, Tyrese or Halliburton, scoring 25 points a game every single time. It's going to take a team effort to beat these Thunders there. But I feel like, and of course, SGA does a lot of, assists, and he requires a lot of his teams himself. But I feel like SGA has the power to like that true star power to like take over and win the games themselves. And it's not like Siakam or Tyrese can't, but SGA, he's shown that he's him. Yeah, he's the free throw merchant. Didn't need a ton of those to beat needed a ton of those to beat Minnesota, right? He has the star power. So Thunders he can carry them. He can carry them to that championship.
I've seen enough from SGA to even not call him a free throw merchant because I mean, while he is so good at foul baiting, and that is really the calling card, just his ability to operate inside the paint, get to his mid range spot, read and react to the defender, it's pretty incredible. And he just really knows how to contort his body and go for that step back fade. And every single time we saw him do it in that mini series, I was just like, okay, this is probably going to go in. And sure enough, goes in. Like, it just creates so much space with that shot. And it truly does feel unguardable, that move and that skill set that he has to be able to just get his own spots. And it's really, really hard to guard against, because if you chase for the mid range, if you try to just go in, then he'll blow by you, or then he'll just go for the step through. And then if you kind of drop back, then obviously he's going to rise over and get that mid range shot. So I really do appreciate the fact that there's such thing as a mid range merchant, which Shea absolutely is, because it is a skill set that's been a little bit more rare to find. And I do appreciate how his game's always kind of been one of one. I mean, for full disclosure, I've always kind of been a Shea truther, had him on my fantasy teams. Even right after the Clippers trade, I was like, this guy's going to be a stud. Like, OKC got a great one. Like, even if you had Shea and like half of those picks from that PG trade, that's still a huge win for them at the end of the day, making that trade. And the fact that they got Shea and much more is so good for them. So I think Shea will find a way to get his.
I'll be honest, Viv, like, I don't know if we have any footage from any previous old podcasts, but yes, Viv has been on the Shea train for a very long time now. I think he's like told me, at least in like conversations that we've had, that, he's always believed in like his ascension to like, I think people are surprised. Like, people have talked about like, oh, it's like a Curry-like ascension. I think, I don't know if it's quite like that, but it's always been like, oh, Viv has been on that kind of shade train where it's like, yes, he thinks he's going to ascend to this next level of superstardom. And I think he is now kind of like that guy. He's like the MVP. And there's been a lot of pressure on him, though. Like, I think if he doesn't win this championship, there's going to start to be the slander. And like, even making it to the finals right now gets a lot of that load off his back, because we've seen, MVPs not even make it to the conference finals, right? And there's been a lot of slander there. I'm not going to have to name names there because I feel like we all know what I'm talking about. But, yeah,
One guy in particular.
just one person. Just one person. I'm not going to start running now. But either way, let's talk about the role players once more, and just who do you think is going to be the ultimate role player in this game, in this final series? Because I think that with both these teams, there's so many different players that can step up. But who do you think is going to become, the biggest role player in this? Yeah. Or who do you think you should watch out for? Like, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 for each side. Who do you think should be the one for each one that they should look for?
I was going to combine actually kind of your point about who's the most important role player was another kind of like who's going to be the one to pin onto like SGA, right? Who can
exactly
who can be most effective for that? So at least from the Thunder's perspective, I was thinking we saw a lot of guys play some decent defense, like Neesmith. Nembhard did great against Brunson there. Siakam, right? He can pretty much guard everywhere. I can definitely see the Pacers starting off by pinning Neesmith on SGA. I think given the size is close enough for it. Neesmith is pretty fast, can get in front of them. He did decently again. I think they started him off against Brunson in that first series, and he did first couple games. He did quite well against this. Yeah. I think Neesmith, if he doesn't work out, I don't know, Siakam maybe, but I mean,
Siakam's a little too big,
too big, just blow right by for it. And you can throw Shepherd. Shepherd was tossed in when Neesmith was hurt for that same role there, but he got beat a couple times. So I think maybe it's Neesmith, and like he had that crazy 6 threes in a row for the fourth. My jaw was to the floor. So yeah, I feel like Neesmith could be a big series for him, right? Produce not only offensively but defensively on assignment against someone like SGA.
Yeah, he's a true 3 and D guy at this point. Neesmith was always one of those guys where Boston Celtics fans were very hyped about him. Like I think he was like a lotto pick too, and he just didn't really end up getting much playing time with them. And he went to the Pacers, and he truly ascended into a type of guy that every single team would love to have on their roster. You can't really have enough 3 and D guys in the league. So he's definitely a name to watch out for. It's funny that you asked that question though, Matt, because when you said which role player could step up, I immediately thought of 4 guys, which is like really telling of how deep that this NBA Finals roster is going to go. Like you're going to have to really reach into the back for rotations. And yeah, Brian, I think for the Pacers, I'm thinking Neesmith and Nembhard. For the Thunder, I'm thinking Hardenstein and Caruso, because those are your guys that are going to provide the defense on the bigs and on the guards. I think that's going to be really important to try to wear them down. And all 4 of those guys can provide offense and stretches too. So I think that Hardenstein in particular has been a really important contributor to the Thunder. Just his size and his ability to free Chet up and make the big rotations easier. So having someone like him is low key really important to the Thunder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like some of the bigs in this series, I think people might be forgetting about them. Like Miles Turner, he did great, looked pretty good in the. I think pretty good in the New York series there, right? Another guy big who can shoot the three. But yeah, the Hardenstein Holmgren one, I'm just thinking that how, right? I mean, Cat. I mean, he gets clowned on all the time there, but there were some moments where he was just bullying Miles Turner or whoever center that they threw out
Yeah,
there, which is getting to
yeah.
the rim
Yeah,
there. So we'll have to see how that works against, especially with guys like Holmgren. He's wiry and thinner, but I mean he can shoot the three like no one else. And Hartenstein, he's that guy you said more towards the middle for those mid range, get to the rim, crash the rim guy over there. So it's like how will the Thunder's deal with the bigs in the situation? How they'll play it out. I mean, I think it probably helps with some like Siakam could help too, just given his size. But I mean, was Cat when Cat was getting to the rim against him, he was doing that almost effortlessly.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that the Pacers don't have enough defense right now because I think that they have the offense. I think they actually have a better offense than the Thunder right now because the Thunder, they said that they're shooting a little bit below their season average right now. And they're not the biggest, 3-point shooting team in the first place. Like you said, Viv, like they shoot more mid-ranges, right? They got shooters like Isaiah Joe. Jalen Williams can shoot. Dort has that high arcing three, right? But for the most part, they're not really kind of, an elite 3-point shooting team. Like they were able to do it against game 4 against the Timberwolves in like a great fashion, but that's not the kind of game that they do. So the Pacers certainly cannot score them, but can they defend Shea? Can they defend Holmgren? Like that's my biggest concern. Like I think Siakam and Holmgren will match up against each other on both ends, right? They both have that kind of long, wiry frames, and I think that it just makes sense. I don't know who goes up on Shea. I mean, Halliburton's long enough, but I don't think you risk putting him in foul trouble, which will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Neesmith, I think. Let's start with Nembhard first because I think Nembhard was on Brunson for the last 2 games of the series, and Nembhard really, really frustrated Brunson at that last game, so much so that he headbutted him, right? Like. He's very scrappy, but I don't think he's tall enough to go up against Shea. So I feel like Neesmith is probably the answer, like you guys said, because I don't think Siakam will come on him because he's too big. Turner's obviously way too big. So I think that will be the most interesting question. Who are they going to match up on Shea? Right. And then Halliburton, I presume Caruso and Dort will take both turns on him. And Dort is just probably going to make, just rough him up a little bit. And they've kind of like had a smaller player on these bigger guys, on these bigger scores like Jokic and Randall. They put Caruso on them. I wonder if that they're going to do the same with Siakam and Turner. I don't know yet.
That's the hard part against these Thunders. You have such good like just on ball like defenders like that Caruso versus on Jokic's got like half a foot on Caruso, but Caruso was being pesky, just punching the ball away here and there, and just he was able
And
to
also fouling
help
him. But
foul him, yeah, punching, fouling. But yeah, I mean, he was a big part of helping them stop the Jokic train there. So guys like Caruso, Dort, you can switch him on to like either or like the main scorers for the Pacers, right? If Tyrese gets hot or if Siakam has a good game there, I feel like those are both guys that you can just put on to just really pester and slow down that Indiana offense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the moment of truth is here. We've been talking about it for about half an hour now. Let's predict these finals on what is going to happen. I've already kind of given away the fact that I'm going to root for the Pacers here, but I'll go first. I am going to pick the Thunder in 6, unfortunately. I would very much like to see Indiana win their first championship. They have a great, kind of team culture out there. I really think that it's, again, good for the sport that so many small market teams are making it. We haven't had a repeat finals appearance this decade. Only the Heat have done it with, both kind of miracle kind of performances at the 8th seed. But it's good for the sport, I guess, unless it's not the Warriors. But I'm going to go with the Thunder in 6. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins finals MVP. I think that this, again, I've said it all along for the entire playoffs, that this Thunder team is incredibly good, right? They're not just a normal 1-seed team. They won, 68 games. They've only lost 1 game against the East this entire year. And guess what? It wasn't against the Pacers, right? Like, they won both of the regular season matchups against the Pacers pretty handedly. One of them, they didn't even have Chet Holmgren in. So I think that, defense wins championships, and I think they have the best defense, and I think that they will frustrate the Pacers enough to... The hardest thing is just for me is to believe that the Pacers are going to be able to take 4 games against the Thunder. I think it's just really hard to beat a team like that 4 times, especially now that they're kind of more battle tested ever since their Nuggets series. So I'm going to go with the Thunder here.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with what the majority in the betting market is. Yeah, Thunder's gonna win. Nah. I'm gonna do what I did last year. I'm down to make a fool of myself. I think what did I do last year? I think I did like 4-2 Mavs.
I have to assume you picked the loser.
Oh, I definitely picked the loser. I mean, let's paint a road for the Pacers to win this, right? I feel like, they 100% have to win at least one of the first 2 games. Let's say they do what they did against the Knicks here. Let's say they take first 2. Oh shoot, the Pacers are looking for it. I mean, I don't know, too much. I'll just say, let's do Pacers in. I'll just call it Pacers in 7. Let's just do it, because anything can happen. I don't know how to get that 3rd win somewhere, but I feel like once you hit a game 7, anything happens. If they win, I'll see them doing it in 7 games.
You want to paint the roadmap, Viv? I can paint the roadmap. I think that the Pacers can, if they take the one home game in the first 2 games, that will already be, a victory, right? They get momentum. They have lost, I think, 1 game at home this entire playoff. So let's say they take both games there, 3-1 lead, right? And then Thunder have been pretty good at home too, so they take game 5. And then, game 6 is just easy. And then, you just win at Indiana. But I think the one thing is that, it's hard to beat the Thunder at home. The only one team that did it was the Nuggets in that miracle last game, right? In that last second comeback. But we have seen that the Pacers have done that already 3 times. They've had like a 9-point deficit in like the final minute of game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they did it. Like, just don't count these guys out. Like, I love how, like, they always find a way. Like, they get like an elite mode at the end of these 4th quarters. So never count them out.
I'll end with if they ever get this far, Pacers in 7, Halliburton MVP.
Ooh, all right.
I feel like they'll need him to, like, we've seen Siakam, right? He's producing like consistently every single game. Tyrese got to have that series there. Everything's got to click for him to stand a chance. So if they get there, I feel like Tyrese got to put on a true masterclass.
I agree.
I like it. I'm gonna have to go with the conventional odds. The Thunder are just way too good. I'd like to see the Pacers go up 2-0 and then there be collective chaos and panic, only for Thunder to get their stuff together and win out in 4 or 5, maybe. I mean, I can see them being pushed to 6 or 7, but that's a rosy picture and not one that I
Damn.
believe it's likely. I'm going to say Thunder in 5. I respect the Pacers a lot. This isn't an indictment or any sort of scorn or just like any derision I'm throwing their way as far as my perspective on their basketball talent. They're a great team, but I think that the Thunder are close to being an all-time team as far as regular season goes and as far as their rotation, their coaching philosophy. They've just done it the right way, and they are a juggernaut on both sides of the ball. Even if their offense isn't great, they still have a really good offensive philosophy. And their defense, obviously, is just absolutely killer. I'd love to see an upset. I'd love to be wrong. That would be so hilarious to see the whole narrative regarding the Thunder. But in reality, I just don't really see that happening. But you never know. There's always a 2016 situation that can happen. So I'm not going to be the
Are they
one that's
gonna
holding my breath.
suspend Shea for like a game?
Shea flagrant. Multiple
Lou
flagrants
Dort
to
tackles
pick out.
fucking someone, and then Hartenstein breaks his leg. I mean, I guess anything can happen.
Chet Williams asks for too much oxtail at the cookout.
Jesus.
Yeah, you can have a whole podcast episode on.
And they say the
Chet
NBA
Holmgren
isn't
code
rigged.
switching.
Oh boy. Well, we got 2 Thunder, we got 1 Pacers. We aren't jinxing it, at least. Bryant, are you sure you don't want to just switch to the Thunder and then we get that jinx going?
Ooh,
That could be fun.
That's a good way to do it.
Does that work? Does it work if we acknowledge it? I don't think it works though.
No, it's too. No, I'll keep it like this. I think from the start we can if I did it from the start we can hex them. But
Yes.
nah, let's keep it as
You'll
is.
be the ultra champion if you
Yeah.
get this.
Yeah.
All right, that is going to do it for today's finals preview. Again, you can follow all our social medias, sports_counsel on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, every social media site. We are on that to see the latest and greatest of our takes. We will be live tweeting throughout the finals. And, we've been talking about it a little bit, but there's a chance that we could do some post-game coverage on one of these days in our Twitter spaces. We've been meaning to kind of hold a little space for kind of, just to hear a little bit more from the fans, hear the discussion, maybe after one of these games. So, definitely take a look at our Twitter, sports_counsel. Maybe take a look right after the game, see if we're hosting a little space that you can kind of join in. And if not, again, our Discord's always available. The link is in all of the social media bios. Come in, join the conversation there. And you can find our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts from. Subscribe and listen in. We will be having a lot more episodes very soon. That is going to do it for today's show. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off at about 10:30 at night?
I could end with another reference like I did to start, but I think we've had enough of references for the day.
Not
you
dropping
ready?
another one right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
ready?
remember what was the
Are you ready for Halaban versus Shices?
Jesus, there it is. I was trying to remember what it was.
I know.
I was like, what was the shy one? Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Like Doris Burke, I'm all over NBA social media. Let's go. You ready to hear her on the call? I don't think I am. Nor Richard Jefferson. But that is going to do it, guys. Thank you so much.